Here's a word problem taken right out of the book on page 250. I know you hate word problems. Most algebra students do. Most algebra students will be complaining about word problems 20 years after they've taken algebra. So anyway, let's deal with this. The first step in solving any word problem is to understand the problem. And that begins by reading the problem at least twice, sometimes even 3 times. First time we're going to just read it, see what's going on. Second time we're going to collect information and see what we can gain from that information so we can come up with a strategy. And then we're going to affect that strategy and then check the answer. Alright, so let's do the first reading. Since 2003, vehicle consumption of E85 fuel, which apparently is 85% ethanol. Ooh, that's pretty concentrated. Anyway, this E85 fuel has increased by 8,262.4 thousand gallons per year. Alright, we could round that to about 8 million gallons a year. In 2006, approximately 61,029.4 thousand gallons were used. So that's 61 million gallons were used, roughly, according to the Statistical Abstract of the United States. Basically, this means this is real data. I mean, would the government lie to you? Alright, so we actually have 2 problems. The first problem is A, and it says write a linear equation to model these data. Let x, okay, they're going to give you what the variables mean. Let x represent the number of years after 2003. Let y represent the amount of E85 fuel in thousands of gallons consumed. So x is going to be our independent variable, right? Because the year is the year, doesn't affect much anything, it's just the year. Y is going to depend on what year it is. That's a useful bit of information. Alright, and the second problem is how much E85 fuel did vehicles use in 2003 and 2005? That's going to suggest, I think, the final form of our equation. Alright, so since 2003, well, the significance of 2003 comes in here. Because in 2003, x equals 0, right? Let x represent the number of years after 2003. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Vehicle consumption of E85 fuel has increased by this amount. 262.4, let's put a K in here for 1,000 gallons per year. And I can put a 1 in here, and guess what? This gives me a slope. Alright, because a slope is rate of change. This is a rate of change. Alright, gallons is what is the change in y, right? Y is what is y? Y is the amount of ethanol used. So it changes by 8,262 every year, and the amount of years, that's the change in x. So that's a slope. So we know one thing, we have a slope. And we have a couple of formulas we can use on that have slope in them, but let's see what else we've got. In 2006, what happened? Well, 61,029.4 thousand gallons were used. Now, I put in the gallons, 1,000 gallons. This is 1,000 gallons. So, whatever equation we're going to use, the units are consistent. So now we can sort of forget about the units of measurement. But you have to be careful about that. Sometimes they will give you different units of measurement and you'll have to do a conversion. Ooh, this looks like a point. But somewhere down here I read about x is the number of years after 2003. So we're going to have to subtract 2003 to get x. And x is going to be 3. y is going to be 61,029.4. So I have a point, and I have a slope. So that tells me right away I'm going to use the point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's the point slope formula. Alright, so first thing I need to do is start to plug into this thing. So this is going to be x1, this is going to be y1. So I have an x1, a y1, and an m. And you just plug in. Y minus y1. What the heck is y1? y1 is 61,029.4 equals m. What's m? M is 8,262.4 times the quantity x minus x1. Well, x1 is just 3. Alright, I have an equation, so technically I did this, but I want to be able to estimate how much gas was given in a certain year. So that means I want to really have it looking something like this. Y equals mx plus b, where I plug something in, I plug a year in, and what do I get? I get the thousands of gallons out, right? And I have this, and I'll get this by rearranging. So let me rearrange. Alright, well, the first thing I got to do is get rid of the parentheses. Remember PEMDAS? So I have y minus 61,029.4. That equals 8,262.4 times x minus, let me get my calculator out here. Alright, so I have 8,262.4 times 3 equals, so that's 24,787.2. 24,000, oops, 787.2. Alright, I got to get rid of the y. I got to get rid of this number here, right? So I'm going to add 61,029.4. And I'm going to add that over here. I'm going to put it up on top. Makes the arithmetic a little easier. 61,029.4. Alright. So let's do this. That goes away. And I'm left with y equals 8,262.4x minus, alright, 2 from 4, that's 2. 7 from 9, oops, don't forget the decimal point, 7 from 9 is 2. Alright, I'll make that a 9. That makes that a 12. 8 and 4 are 12. 2, that's going to be 2. Oops. That's a 0, right? So this is going to be 5. Borrow the 1. And that's going to be 6. So that's going to be minus... Oops. What did I do wrong? Oh. 4, that's 6, right? And 2, that's 3. I think I did that right. And that's a plus. So that's 36,242.2. Alright, so I have my equation.
Well, I already had an equation, but this equation is going to be easy to use than this equation. Alright, because all I have to do is put x in, do the arithmetic, and out pops y. Right? Boom. In, out. 2003 was year 0. Alright, so we're going to plug 0 in for x. So this is B, and in B,
2003 means that x equals 0. So I plug that in. Y equals 8,262.4 times 0 plus 36,242.2. Oh, this is nice. This goes away because that's 0. 0 times anything is 0. So in 2003, the amount of ethanol, 85%, came to 36 million roughly, give or take, 242. Oops, I can't write things down right. That's not 0.4, it's 0.2. Right, here's the 0.2. So that should have been a 2. So it's 36,242,000 gallons were consumed in 2003. So next year is 2006. Well, in 2006, no, it's not 2006. Got to make sure I get the problem right. It's 2003. It's important when you're doing a word problem to get the right numbers. So let me erase this. And that's going to be 2003. Sorry, 2005. All right, in 2005, x equals x equals what? Well, in 2003, it's 0. Add 2 years, and it's 2005, so x equals 2. So I plug that in, and I get y equals 8,262.4 times 2 plus 36,242.2. All right, I'm going to need my handy-dandy calculator for this. I get 8,262.4 times 2 equals that whole mess. Plus, now I got to feed this thing in here. 36,242.2 equals. So that equals 52,767 equals 52,767. And since I've gone a decimal point, I should probably put a decimal point here. All of these things are significant to one decimal point. So that's 1,000 gallons of E85. And that's all there is to it. This is the end of section 4.5, so this is the last video. We'll meet in class to do homework on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. I'm Luke Kane. We'll see you soon.